Hey, there we go. Hi, and welcome to #Project Body Confident. I am joined with Peta. Peta is a very old friend of mine. We went to school together. I was trying to work out how long I've actually known you, how many years I've actually
We
known
were
you.
three.
Oh, my life. That's a very long time. Peta is also a mum of two beautiful children, and she's currently been doing, or she is doing, sorry, some work with us on our blog. So you may have seen her if you've been reading the blogs on our website. But we thought we would introduce Peta onto the podcast as well. We're going to be talking around exercise, mum life, what it looked like when we were in school, what it looks like as kids. And Peter's been doing quite a lot of research into this with family members and friends too. So, Peta, over to you. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Hello.
Just yeah.
Right. Thank you for having me.
No worries.
Yeah, we went to the same preschool together.
Yes, we did. So it is since we were three.
Yeah, so that was how I met.
I don't even remember how old we are. That's a very long time, Peta. That's like...
It is a very long time. Yeah, no, it's bonkers.
And how things changed. Hey, could you ever imagine me being a personal trainer when I was in school? Definitely not.
I don't know how to answer that without sounding horrible.
Be honest. This podcast is all about honesty.
No, probably not. I could always imagine you doing something really social and really sociable, because you're always like very vibrant and and like full of life and stuff. But yeah, personal training wasn't ever something that I would have considered. But then, to be perfectly honest, I didn't think that I'd be a mum of two at this point and a blogger. I kind of thought I'd be Prime Minister by now.
There's definitely still scope for you to be Prime Minister, and you would definitely be doing a better job than what they're doing right now, but let's not get into that because that's a whole nother topic.
We'll just veer away from that.
Yeah. So you've been prepping some questions. I know that you've spoken to your mum, Nan, and also some other mum friends, is that right? Around exercise in school and childhoods, etc.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the most interesting part that you found out from your mum and your gran, and how does that relate to things right now?
So I've had this idea. I've been doing some thinking about the differences between my attitude to fitness and the attitude that I want to pass on to my children, and attitudes to fitness that previous generations have had, and how you break like this, the transgenerational patterns that like happen. And the fact is that I'm pretty much the first person in my family to do exercise on a regular basis and to make it part of their life and part of their kind of like day-to-day thing. And I can't be the only one in that position. And so I was really interested in how that changes and why I've got to that point, and whether it's more to do with like society around me or just me or circumstances. So I talked to my gran, who is 87, and I talked to my mum, who is, I'm gonna get in trouble if I get this wrong, who is 57.
Be careful now, because she'll be listening.
Really careful, she will be listening. Who is 57. So I talked to them about sport and fitness and how it fitted into their lives growing up, and as grown-ups. And then I talked to, because I wanted to kind of keep it to women, in a non-sexist way. So I don't have an 8 to 10-year-old girl, so I borrowed one.
Nice.
So my friend Jo lent me her daughter Sophie, and I asked her some questions about how kind of school deals with exercise, and about how she feels about exercise and sport and fitness in her life. And it was really, really interesting. Particularly around attitudes towards fitness around pregnancy. And also to do with the different images and attitudes towards sport that people saw as they were growing up, and the effect that had on them. So
am I right in thinking maybe when your gran and mum were pregnant, the attitude around fitness and what women should be doing when you're pregnant is very different to what we suggest for our pregnant ladies now.
It is, yes. Well, my gran had 3 children under the age of I think 2 at one point. I'm going to check because again she'll be cross with me if I get it wrong. Well, she had 3 children in 2.5 years, which is a little bit bonkers. And she was talking about it and how and the amount of trauma that she thinks her body went through at that point. And then once you've got the children and they're like out and you have to do stuff with them, she'd have one in a pram, one on top of a pram, one on a hip, and like carrying things up steps and all that kind of thing. And there wasn't really any understanding that you had to look after your body. The idea was that pregnancy was something that that every woman did, or most women did. It was a generally accepted view, and so it was perfectly natural. And so you didn't really need to worry about it because your body would just deal with it. You didn't need to be careful about anything. You didn't need to do anything special. And so she didn't really. And when she got to her 50s and she started having problems with her back and things, she went to the doctors and he said, oh, it's arthritis. And it probably started because of all of this. And she'd never really considered it before. And then when my mum was pregnant, you didn't have like pregnancy yoga where you talk about relaxing and you talk about hypnobirthing and breathing and all that kind of stuff, and stretching and being careful. You kind of just you just got on with it.
Got on with it.
Yeah. And she had 2 kids, and then when she was in her 20s, and then she had my brother when she was 30. He was a little bit of a surprise. And he was also quite a bit of a lump. So she did quite a lot of like lifting around and things. And again, she has back problems. They both slipped discs at similar points in their lives. And that has led to similar problems as they've got older.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then at the same time, with when they were pregnant, they would never have been encouraged to get fit if they weren't, or to continue any fitness that they were kind of doing, because but up until recently, I'm pretty sure you weren't meant to run if you were pregnant.
No. No. There's lots of things that you're meant to do and not meant to do, and I think the whole pre and postnatal world, and how certainly, I mean, we're going off a little bit here, but certainly I've got ladies that I train, and after having babies they come to me and they're like, well, this is just normal, and I'm like, no, it's not normal, and it shouldn't be like that, and the doctor should not say that it's okay for that to happen, because it shouldn't. There are ways that you can work on it, but anyway, I'm sorry.
So you contrast that to both of my pregnancies, one which was 8 years ago and then one which was 6-7 months ago, and I went to pregnancy yoga classes for both of them, and did pregnancy specific exercises all the way through. My waters broke while I was in a yoga class with Ethan.
Oh, did they?
It's interesting.
I think I might need to get class. Sorry, it's not me now. Oh dear. Well, if you have plenty of people around you going through the same thing, it's not like it was in a class where
So I worked out all the way through both of my pregnancies. But the focus, not because I was like worried about putting on weight or anything, but because I wanted to make sure that my body was in the best physical condition in order to go through something that I knew would be really physically difficult. And then I wanted to be able to recover sensibly afterwards. So you have to kind of put work in. And I wanted to protect my back because I knew that my mum and my gran had both had problems.
And have you had any issues with your back?
Nope.
Nope. Yay, perfect.
So Ethan's birth was ridiculous, and I won't go into it now because it's just people will start having like nightmares. But it was really physically taxing, and I shouldn't have recovered as fast as I did. But because I'd put the work in beforehand, And because I was fit and because I'd looked after my joints and muscles and everything, I was able to recover to better than I was before, a lot faster than doctors were expecting.
Well, that's just amazing.
Yeah, so I'm quite happy with that. So yeah, so I wanted to try and do the same this time round. But yeah, I don't know, it makes me sad talking to my mum and my gran that, like, back then they obviously put their bodies through incredible amounts, and then just thought that back pain was just a normal thing because they'd had babies.
Like I said, I think, I mean, I'm all for, like, and it's great that you have said that you've recovered better than you, like, or fitter than you did before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's a great testimonial for women out there who often get, like, scared or read things, or again speak to their parents or their grandparents who say, no, you're not allowed to do that, and no, you're not allowed to move, and no, you don't exercise, and no, don't lift that heavy bar or whatever. And that's where it's obviously stemmed from, because they haven't been educated. So therefore, like, it gets passed down, doesn't it? So I think quite possibly, I mean, you've obviously done amazingly, but what made you, did you do that because you didn't want to be like your mum and gran with the bad back? Did you go away and educate yourself, or was it like just a subconscious thing going, well, I don't want to do that? What made you look at that differently? Do you see what I mean? Because if it was a different circumstance and you hadn't done that, you potentially could have had a bad back like your mum and your nan.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with the size that Ethan was when he was born, because he was like 10 pounds 1 ounce. So yeah, I would have done my back in. Yeah.
Hi, Ethan.
He's in bed. He's not going to be listening. I think that I came to exercise not fairly late, but not really until university. I grew up through school. In primary school, I loved, like, playing netball, like running around. It was just fun, and playing games and stuff. And I wasn't, and still I'm not, particularly coordinated. But but I was tall, and I had long legs, and I was pretty good at shooting into a hoop. So I was goal attack in netball.
Nice.
Very proudly. And then we went to secondary school, and sport kind of became a little bit more about who you were friends with and which crowd you were in. And socially, school was not a good time for me. I was pretty badly bullied, like, pretty much all the way through. And sport with that, it just compounded everything, because if you weren't with the right group, then you didn't get picked for the teams, and so you didn't really get to play, and it was all a bit embarrassing anyway, because you're going through that stage where your body's changing and you don't really know what to do with it. And because I was taller, and I'm taller, and always felt quite big, and self-conscious, sport being something that you had to move your body around and being very physical, I didn't feel hugely comfortable with it at the time. So I think I just kind of wrote sport off in secondary school and didn't really do very much, and wasn't very physical. And then I got to uni, and in order to join any of the teams, you had to do, like, initiations and stuff, and that just felt a little bit too much like the bullying in secondary school. So I was like, I'm not going to do that.
No, it isn't going very well.
It's not going very well at all. So a friend and I decided to take advantage of the student, like, discount at the gym, and I think probably we were more interested in the sauna than we were in the actual gym, I think, to be honest. But we did start going to some of the classes. So we'd, like, stay out till, like, 2-3 in the morning, and then we'd get in and we'd go to a 6 a.m. spin circuit class, and then we'd come home and
ouch.
And we'd, like, eat porridge in front of friends' room and stuff. And that was, and it was kind of, it was spin circuits, or it was treadmill, or it was the machines. It wasn't really venturing into the free weights area, because there were big men making ridiculously over serious noises, that kind of thing. But it kind of got us out and got me thinking about fitness. But at that point, it was really about losing weight and kind of looking how I felt I should look.
Yeah.
It was.
I don't like that, but I like that phrase. Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah.
It's true. We've all been there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was about. It was about working off the alcoholic calories that I was probably taking on the night before. And then I met Mark, my first husband, and he was really into running.
Okay.
Do half marathons and 10Ks every week and ridiculous stuff like that. And I kind of felt like I had to keep up. And he subscribed to like Runner's World magazine and you like learning different bits about nutrition and stuff. And I didn't really know how to cook at that point, so we'd take like recipes from Runner's World and we'd use those, and I'd learn about nutrition through that. And because I'm nosy and I like learning new I started looking into things more. But I wasn't very good at running, mainly because I wasn't as fast as him and I just felt really slow, and like I was slowing him down, and mainly because again, I'm quite tall and there's quite a lot of me, and running is quite hard work, really.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think that, yeah.
I like it. I love the feeling of like running as fast as I can, but obviously you can only do that for like a little amount of time before you're knackered. And that's not really going to cut it. So I kind of got hooked on the endorphin high of that kind of doing exercise. Yeah, but I needed to find something that just, I don't know, felt a little bit less like punishing myself and a little bit more about kind of just feeling a bit better.
Yeah.
And that was when I kind of started looking into like the movement, physical science, and like science of movement and what works and what doesn't, and thinking about the things that I could get my body to do and be proud of that, as opposed to how I could fit into smaller trousers.
It's a good
so that kind of wasn't until I was about 25, 26, I don't think.
Okay.
And then I found Tracy Anderson method, and I do my fangirly thing. And that kind of, it kind of works for me, because it's not about, I can't do HIIT, because I know that from what I've read and what I've learned, I know that I have to look after my joints, otherwise I am going to end up like my mum, my gran. My exercise now has to be about protecting what I have, so that I can keep moving, as opposed to making me smaller.
Yeah,
really.
And definitely, and I think that's like a massive point, isn't it? Is actually looking after your body for longevity. Like, and that's something I've always said that I want to do, and I've said it before in my podcasts, and I'll say it again. I want to be wiping my own ass at 90. Like, I don't want to be like, I want to be fit enough to do that and healthy enough to do that. And how are you going to get there? You need to look after your body. You need to look after your joints, your mobility, flexibility. And it's not about running the half marathon or the 10K or doing the HIIT workouts, and it's not about how heavy you can lift. If you can't move properly, then there's no point in doing all of that anyway. So yeah, very well said there. It's interesting, actually. So you talking about obviously school. So whilst we were in school, obviously preschool and primary school, and then like secondary school, I don't ever remember at secondary school. I mean, I was similar to you, bullied at secondary school and stuff, and it wasn't like the best time and whatever, for whatever reasons. But I don't ever really remember it being like a big focal point of like exercising, or like exercising to be skinny either. Like body image wasn't really a thing as such, really, at secondary school for us. And it wasn't until I left secondary school, found the gym, similar to you. I, however, did go straight into the weights area. I was like, I'm doing that. I'm not being told I have to be on a cardio machine. What would I want to do that for? Because I hate cardio. It's a well-known fact. I hate cardio. I hate running. That's what I like cycling. But anyway, I was never going to be that person that was going to sit on that. I don't mind a spin bike or a spin class, but yeah, it was never going to be me. Anyway, it was only then did I feel like there was a big focus on how you looked skinny. And like you just said, that separation between women should be on cardio, men should be in the weights, that's when this body image and whole like different male female should be doing this, different exercises, that kind of came into play. Am I right in thinking that's the same for you? Because I suppose if we look back at what you've mentioned about your mum and your gran, that again, there's not really body image going on there. In fact, there's not even really any body care going on there. It's a case of you get pregnant, you have children, and you get on with it, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I asked my gran about what was it? I said, how did you feel about your body growing up? Because I asked both my mum and my gran that, and she said we didn't really think about our bodies, which to me, in the world that we live in right now, it just sounds completely alien. I can't imagine being in an atmosphere where you don't think, I mean, not constantly, but where you don't at some point think about your bodies. But they were just a thing that you had. And she, some of her childhood, or for a majority of her childhood, they still had rationing. So like the idea that you could put on lots of weight wasn't a thing anyway, because like sweets were rationed and eggs and flour and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, she said it's completely different to now, that we just didn't think about it. And then my mum, so we're talking 30 years later, she said that she felt when she kind of started going through puberty, she felt that she was a bit like podgy and she wasn't hugely happy about it. But there wasn't like, she said she wasn't confident about anything. It wasn't that she wasn't body confident, she just wasn't a very confident child.
Right. Okay.
So they didn't think about what they look like in different clothes or what they look like compared to their peers. It just wasn't a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And so then when you spoke to, so that's those two generations, and obviously we've mentioned it didn't come in until like what, early 20s, I'd probably say. Maybe like late teens, early 20s is when like body image started to become a thing or something that you were more conscious of. I know, like I said, certainly through secondary school, it was more about who you were friends with, like you said, like which crowd were you hanging around in, and maybe like a bit more about fashion coming towards the end of secondary school, how you look, what you were dressing, that kind of thing. And
with me, it was a lot to do with how you were different to the people around you, rather than different to people on like TV or in the media. So because I was a lot taller, and because I've got a larger frame, I think I felt bigger than everybody else. But that wasn't necessarily, that wasn't like a media-induced body image thing. That was just, I felt like I was huge. And then I look back at pictures and I'm like, oh my word, what were you thinking? You weren't 5'2", but yeah, it just it makes me angry.
Yeah, I know the same. Although the things that make me angry is looking at some of the outfits I used to wear, the shell suits and things. I'm like, what were you?
Yeah.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. So you mentioned that you borrowed a child.
I did. Yes, sounds
all the questions. So talking about like sticking on this whole body image, because it's really interesting.
Yeah.
There wasn't much body image. There was no sort of like body confidence. No actual real self-care, which is something that again is what you're doing with, and like preserving your joints and your muscles and fitness. And it's more about looking after yourself and looking after your body. There was none of that back then. We're now in our 30s. Nearly out of those. Sorry. And obviously this is I would say the biggest thing that I sort of focus on. I move to feel good. I move because I want to live a longer, healthier, happier life. And it makes you feel good, like you said. You exercise and you feel those endorphins that you get. So with the 10-year-old that we spoke to, how is body image, or how is that perceived with her now, and what does that look like versus us and parents and grandparents?
It's interesting. So she's 10, and I spent the last, 15, 20 years of my life working with teenagers who were teenagers in the last 10, 15 years. They are a lot more focused on body image than Sophie, our little 10-year-old.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So she, when we asked her about positive images and messages that she sees kind of in the media and stuff, she talked about that she really liked to watch the cricket. And in the cricket, I don't know this because I don't understand cricket, and I kind of feel like any sport that you have to wear a jumper in is not a sport.
I, on the other hand, love cricket, so I'm intrigued.
But that's a little bit controversial. No, I understand that it's just my thing. But apparently, in the lunch break,
jumper while you're playing cricket in Australia, though, I'll just point out.
This is very true.
Anyway, carry on.
In the lunch break, they review kids' technique videos.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that means that kids send in videos, and then the professionals will go, "That's really good what you did there," all that kind of stuff. And then they bring out positive points, and then apparently that really helps her game, which is great. And she talked about on YouTube, she watches people like a professional skateboarder who's called Saber Norris, I think.
Not skateboarder.
Yeah. Pardon?
I don't know skateboarders, but anyway.
And she does surfing too. And she talked about how this girl inspired her because she overcame loads of like serious medical problems in order to do the sport that she does now. And she mentioned Joe Wicks and how he talks about like how exercise can make you feel good, and good for your mental health and stuff. So I think that I kind of feel like we've gone through, from my experience as a youth worker, and a lot of the time I spent talking to girls about things like body image and kind of how they feel emotionally and socially. I almost feel like we've gone through this period where it was a massive focus, the body image bit, and the images that we saw in the media were really specific, like this is the one way that you have to look if you are fit and if you are healthy, and it's about kind of shape and things. And we're almost I hope anyway, it feels like we're coming out the other end. So young kids are seeing a different kinds of things in the media, different images. So there's the This Girl Can campaign, which has been epic. Like, I love it. It's been brilliant for like people like my mum and my two aunts who have got into running fairly recently, and it's been brilliant for kids as well, because they can see people who are different sizes and different statures doing different sports. And then you've got people like Joe Wicks who are talking about how exercise makes you happy, and that you don't have to be particularly good at it. You just have to do something that gives you those endorphins, and So I'm hoping, well, I might be being overly optimistic. I'm hoping we're kind of coming out the other end.
I think that's like a really positive and fab, piece of news, if I'm honest, to hear that actually what kids are seeing is the positivity and that change, and it's around like the exercise and what you can do, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that we have come out of it, and I'm hoping that we can teach our children to love their bodies and to look after them correctly. Unfortunately, I think that certainly our generation, and possibly even maybe if we were to look at somebody who was in their 20s, teens to 20s, I think that might still be where the issues are lying, if I'm honest.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it's nice to know that the little ones are coming up, and hopefully we can continue that, and hopefully we can change the other generations as well, at some point.
It is breaking those
breaking the mold,
habits, and that mold. So when I talked to my gran about I was like, how did you talk to your children about like physical movement and nutrition and things? And she said she didn't really. They lived in a village, so the kids were cycling like around different places to get to places. The only thing that she was particularly worried about was that they learned to swim, because she never learned to swim. So like they did sport at school, but they didn't really. That was about it, really.
Yeah,
it wasn't really something that was that she would have considered her responsibility. And I mean, that's not being down on her. Like, nobody at that point would have considered it their responsibility to talk to their children about fitness and nutrition, because it just wasn't a thing, and they didn't have the knowledge to do it. And then when I asked my mum the same question, she said she likes to think that she encouraged us to do sport, and that she thought that it was important that we got kind of out and about and got fresh air, and whenever we were interested in sporty things, she was very encouraging. But yeah, it wasn't, again, she didn't have the knowledge. And when I was small, I mean, less so when my brother was younger, but when my sister and I were small, we didn't have very much money at all. So nutrition wasn't really nutrition. Nutrition was like enough food to fill you up, so that you stopped moaning at her to for something else to eat. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Yeah.
It wasn't about like five a day wasn't a thing.
No.
You gave your kids enough food to fill them up, because that was your responsibility. But you didn't talk about nutrition.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because it, like, now it's nutrition is a big point because of all the processed foods that there are. So if you look back at when obviously your gran had her kids, there wasn't that kind of food. They were on rations, like you said. So it wasn't a case of you could have whatever you wanted. And I'm not, like you just said, like us growing up, the food was very different then as well. So it's not like there isn't as much crap as there is now. There was, but like you say, we didn't necessarily have the option to have it. So I think certainly nutrition for me, and certainly with kids, is a big point, because it's just too easy to grab, isn't it? The processed, quick, refined food, but back when your nan was a mum and looking after her kids, you didn't have the option to give them that. Now, because we've got the options, it's like, well, which one is it? Choose. Yes, it's quick and easy, and it's going to shut them up. But actually, this, do you know what I mean? Like, this is the good, like, this is the stuff that is available, and that's what you need to feed your body and fuel it. So yeah, it's interesting how it's.
Well, I think it's tricky because so like I've made a point of educating myself about this stuff because I'm interested. And because I like knowing things, also because when I got married the first time, I had IBS.
Okay.
And I through process of elimination and stuff, we worked out that actually I couldn't eat onions and I couldn't eat peppers, and I shouldn't really eat dairy. So everything ready-made then, like all the like home fried pasta sauces and chicken tonight and all the kind of stuff that was very prevalent back then, it's all got onion powder in it, all of it. Like everything. So I had to learn to cook from scratch because I couldn't eat anything. I taught myself how to cook because of that, and because of that I got more interested, because I wanted to eat nice food, and I wanted to cook nice food, more interested in food and how different flavors work, and then got into what different foods give you different nutrients, and which ones you need and which ones are good for different things, and making sure that your diet is balanced. But that took me 15 odd year, maybe 20, to get to the point where I can sit down with Ethan and I can say, like, what do you want for lunch? And he'll say beans on toast, and I'll say, well, we have to have a carbohydrate, a protein, and then we have to have vitamins and minerals in your vegetables, and we'll work through. He'll go, okay, so I still want toast.
And I still want beans. So what vegetables can I add to my beans on toast?
So we still want toast, but we have granary bread. I've started making white bread because Erica's 7 months old and she can't have that much fibre. So there is white bread in the house now, but generally we don't have white bread in the house. So he has granary bread, so he's getting his fibre then. And he knows that fibre helps you poo. So he's quite happy about that, because it's the only time at meal times that he's allowed to talk about poo.
I love kids.
And so he wants beans, but he knows that he can only have beans like once a week as a vegetable, because otherwise it's not balanced. And we talk about different colour vegetables, and we talk about protein and how it builds muscles, and we talk about things that are good for your brain. And it helps that he's a bit sciencey and he likes knowing that stuff. But because he knows things like that, it means that he's less likely to argue when I tell him that he's not allowed sausages, beans and chips like every day, because like he knows that there's a reason, that I'm not just being a really horrible parent. There's an actual reason why. Yeah, and I kind of get him on side.
Yeah, but that's all. Go on.
Sorry, no, and that doesn't mean that like he's a dream. Like up until he was 3, he would eat anything. But vegetable wise, we're pretty much on broccoli, carrots, sweet corn, and cherry tomatoes. I think he's like about 65% cherry tomato at this point. Just like made of cherry tomato. Yeah. But yeah, so he's restricted. Like he's a typical kid. There are things he doesn't like, but yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's obviously that's the whole educational piece again, isn't it? So yeah, like you educated yourself on what you needed to do for your body to make sure that you didn't end up with a bad back like your mum and your gran. And also you've educated yourself about the foods and what you need, and you're educating your children. And like you say, they're less likely to argue if there's a reason behind it, rather than the fact that you've got to eat it, otherwise you don't get pudding. Do you know what I mean? Like there's an actual reason behind it, and if they start understanding it, and it's all about that educational piece, which I think is really important. Once you actually work out, like I said to you before we started recording, like when I work with my students, it's about what can we add into our diets, like what is it that you can add to your food. So have veggies for breakfast, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, have vegetables for breakfast. Like what can you add into your diet, rather than restricting it, because then your body doesn't need all those things that we crave if you're getting the right balance on everything. So that's really interesting. It's really interesting points to carry over from that, because I suppose, like you say, with your nan and obviously mum and things. I remember my when we were at school, like cooking, like we're big cookers, you know. Dad was Alex is a chef. Mum was always a good cook, so we were always cooking. But I don't ever really remember talking about those kind of things with parents as such, like the reasons why.
No, but I'm not sure that information was. I mean, obviously it existed, but I'm not sure it was readily available.
Not like you say, we always used to have a carb, like a vegetable. So it used to be like you'd have your meat, and then like your carbohydrate, and then your veg. You'd have those 3 different things on your plate. You had to have those on your plate when you were a child. Whether there was all the different types, or like you say, the education around it probably wasn't there as much.
But I don't remember talking about nutrients, macro or micro. Like it wasn't a thing. It was calcium. Calcium's the only like thing that I remember being talked about as a kid in that vein. Like the fact that you needed calcium for strong bones.
Calcium, vitamin C, if you were taking vitamins.
Actually, I made vitamin C, but and I don't remember the 5 a day until very late on.
And it's an interesting one, the 5 a day, because actually I think less than I've got statistics somewhere and I should probably dig them out. I'm pretty sure, in fact, less than 10% of the population actually manage to hit. I love that you've got wine. Why did I not bring wine to the podcast? Anyway, less than 10% of the population actually manage to hit 5 a day, when actually what we should be having is between 7 and 10 portions a day. So when you start saying that to somebody who actually can't even hit 5 a day, it's mind-blowing. And working with some of my guys, again, I don't put in strict meal plans or anything, because I don't believe in it, because if you start restricting foods and saying that you can't have things, then they start to you just binge, you go off the wagon, and it becomes like a yo-yo. But like saying to them, have like 7 to 10 portions of fruit and veg. They're like, how many? What? Didn't read how am I meant to have that many?
And it does, but it takes effort. Like
It does take effort.
you can't do it. It's not the kind of thing that you can do if you're not, if you don't have, I don't know, if you're not thinking about your food in a more strategic way. It's
Yeah.
really difficult. If you're running into a supermarket and you're grabbing a sandwich because you've got a 20-minute lunch break, then yeah, it's really difficult to fit 7 to 10 a day. But if you're meal planning, and if you're, again, like you said, you're thinking about things that you can add into your meals, as opposed to just having the one vegetable and the one carb and the one protein, then yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and it all comes back to that education and prep, and being mindful of what you're eating rather than mindfulness is a big thing when it comes to nutrition.
It's the same with exercise as well. Like this whole like education and information being available. When I talk to my mum about exercise, so she's done Couch to 5K like a couple of times, and she ran a 10K 3 years ago, I want to say. She did a sponsored one. It was amazing, and we all went to watch, and it was brilliant. She was really proud of herself. But she keeps she keeps stopping. So she has issues with depression and with SAD as well. So in the winter, she finds it really hard to kind of like get up and get out. And she said that she'd love to get into something that is more consistent. She'd love to do like Pilates or some kind of training. But because of her back problems and because she's come into it later in life, she said you can, like, the information about how to do it safely is not as readily available as you'd like. And in order to kind of like to do it, you feel like you have to pay, and you have to have a personal trainer. And finding a good personal trainer is really, really hard. So I think she said she found one good personal trainer in a gym, and she went to him for about 4 or 5 sessions, and it was going really, really well. And then he offered her drugs, and she was like, I don't really think this is for me. And so then she never went back.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
This is giving personal trainers a bad name. Like, what the hell? Who offers?
No, I know. No, I'm not saying that that's.
No, I'm not saying everybody does it. But I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Who does that?
But that put her off, like the whole.
Of course it will. It would put me off if I went to, because the thing is with personal training, and like you say, like that exercise piece, it's personal, and it's personal to the individual. And I'm very much about that. Everybody I work with, like, we have to work together on this. It's a personal thing. You're spending quite a lot of time with me. There's got to be some sort of connection going on. Like, if you hate me, then I know most people hate me during workouts. But anyway, but if we don't get on, this isn't going to work. And also, I think the people that you work with, like, I am not afraid to turn around and say, actually, do you know what? You're better suited with somebody else because of their expertise, because we can't be experts in it all. And we're always learning as well. And like forever learning as a trainer. But anyway, I know what you mean about obviously people going back to exercise. So I've recently started with a couple of clients who have had serious injuries. And they have like basically gone to classes and had other personal trainers, and they literally like do a session, they get beasted, and then they come out of it and they're sore and it hurts. And I'm like, we shouldn't be doing that. Us as trainers should not be doing that. The idea is when you go back to the gym or when you start at a gym, you work to your abilities. You should not be going into any kind of class and be like put off or worked too hard or it's like I could go off on a massive tangent right now and get quite angry about it, so I'm going to stop. Anyway, it's about finding the right level and the right trainer that's gonna help you there. So that's really sad. Where is your mum at the moment?
She is in Lincoln, but she's just bought a house in Great Bedouin, which is 12 minutes away from me, which is amazing. But she can't live in it at the moment because the floors are all wonky and it needs work. But yeah, so at the moment she's in Lincoln.
Okay. Well, when she moves, and if she is looking for somebody, then I have a whole network of different instructors that are all over the UK. So if she does want,
excellent.
Then we can definitely sort that out for her. Oh, bless her heart. Okay, so we've been chatting for quite some time now. And we've covered quite a bit of ground, which is great. And it's really interesting to see the trends, or the not so much of a trend, that everything has been different across the generations. It's very interesting. I know that you've got a hell of a lot more information there. So I do believe we're going to have a couple of blogs. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
Right.
for those of you who are listening, who are new, Peta has her own blog. Peta, would you like to tell them your handles and where they can find you?
Okay, so you can find my blog at secondtimearound.blog, and then it's at secondtimearound.blog on Instagram, and it's Second Time Around on Facebook. Nice and simple. And basically, I write about what it's like having been widowed at 31 with a 2.5-year-old boy, and then getting through all that, and getting back out there. That's a terrible phrase.
Oh, getting back out
there. Where did that come from?
I don't know. Where did that come from?
Starting to date again, and then getting married again, and having another baby, and how weird it is to be doing it for the second time around, and like the different issues that it flags up, and the things you have to consider, like different sets of in-laws and different names and all that jazz. So I write about that.
And they are very real and honest and very interesting. I love reading them, I'm not going to lie.
Oh.
But it also does some work for us on FeelFit's website as well. So there's a couple of blogs up on myfeelfit.com. She is a big ambassador of the FeelFit brand.
I am currently wearing my leggings.
Yay!
I will show you. I've got my red ones on.
Yay! Love the red ones. I'm in black, so
they're my favourite.
Yeah, the red is beautiful, isn't it? So there's some exciting new red bits coming. So yes, you can find her blogs on our website as well, and the handle on Instagram is FeelFitUK and FeelFitUK1 on Facebook. So I think I'll wrap up. I've got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Which I always ask people when they come on the we're not doing a blog, Ellie, we're doing a podcast. We've been talking for a while. And this is the end of my day after I've been coaching all day as well.
So you needed wine. That was what you should have done.
I definitely needed wine. I don't know why. I did not get that memo. Anyway. So if you were going to go to, and this is obviously normally we talk around fitness and things, okay? Mm-hmm. If you were to have a training session with 3 people, they can be dead, alive, famous or non-famous, who would they be? So any kind of training session. Oh, actually, let's do the people first, and then what type of training session would it be?
Okay. So, oh my word.
Oh
gosh. It depends, because it depends. If it's a particularly energetic training session, I'm not going to talk to them. So
I love your thinking.
Maybe just a
glass of wine with them instead, please.
Will you do the training session and then go for a glass of wine? That'll be fine.
Yes.
Okay. Michelle Obama. I finished reading her book a while back, and she is the most fascinating person. Just ever. She's awesome. I think she's a better public speaker than her husband, and I kind of feel kind of feel like she should run for office, but she won't, which is fine. So her, I'm going to think of someone in about like an hour that would have been perfect and really good, and I'm going to get really angry that I didn't think of them.
You can tag it at the end of the blog.
I will.
Oh, by the way, if you listen to the podcast, I've changed my
mind. Who else? Caitlin Moran.
Oh, okay.
So she, for those of you who don't know, she's an author. She started off as a music journalist when she was like, I think about 12. She managed to get a job in a music magazine. She told them that she wasn't 12, and started writing for them. And she's written a book about it that turned to a film called How to Build a Girl, I think, which is amazing. Anyway, she's fascinating, and she grew up in a cancer estate like me, and she uses big words like me, so I quite like her, and she's hysterical. I wouldn't be able to do any exercise because I would just be laughing too much. So that'll be her. So Michelle Obama and Caitlin Moran. Oh my word, this is too difficult. This is really cheesy. Can I say Ethan?
Yes, you can. Well, I love you. So yes, he most definitely can come.
So not because Ethan is a bit like, I can't do it, it's too hard. But he generally sits on the sofa while I'm doing my workouts, and he points out my form. Normally, like kind of, mummy, your leg isn't as high as her leg is when she's doing that move, and then I want to swear at him. So that's because I'm not 5 foot. And like, yeah, and 90 pounds, but fine. So Ethan, because he makes me smile, and he would check my form and he'd be fine.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. And what type of exercise are we doing? What type of class workout are we doing?
Oh, I don't know.
Do one of your ones online.
Yeah, no, one of my Tracy Anderson classes. Because then I'd know what I was doing and they wouldn't, and then I'd be able to teach them, and I'd feel a little bit more like confident.
There we go. Perfect. Wonderful. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have you got anything you would like to say, Peter, before we leave?
No? I don't think so. Okay. No, it's been quite nice to chat, actually. I think we should do it more often.
I think we should do it more often. I'm pretty sure we have plenty that we can talk about. And possibly. It's been great to have you on, and I have absolutely loved learning about the differences. I'm looking forward to the blogs coming out. This episode of the podcast will be on the usual platforms plus YouTube, and I'll be posting the links to everybody, which I'm sure Peter will share as well.
I will.
And so we will say goodbye for now. See you later.
Bye.